One of the most dangerous and addictive drugs has flooded Minnesota in the last few years. We're taking a close look at the rise of heroin addiction in the Twin Cities, the rehabilitation centers, and speak to recovering addicts who've turned their lives around. I'm Rena Kamal. Our Issues Twin Cities starts now. From 2009 to 2013, heroin-related overdoses took the lives of 290 people in Minnesota. 98 related heroin deaths were reported in 2013. It was the deadliest year to date. Although there was a slight decline in deaths last year, heroin has proved to be a real and serious issue in Minnesota. Why are we seeing a rise in heroin use in Minnesota over the past few years?
The main driver is the rise in painkiller addiction. And the fact that we've been really trying as a society to clamp down on that, because as you're probably aware, painkillers have been labeled such a huge epidemic by the CDC that actually drug overdose has overtaken car accidents as a leading cause of death for adults. And that's largely driven by the prescription painkiller epidemic. As patients don't have enough money to continue to buy these medications off the street, they're switching over to heroin because it provides a much more potent high for the amount of money. It's really awful because largely it starts out, these aren't kids or people who are looking to get addicted to anything or ever think they're going to be addicted to heroin. 60% of the people who start using prescription painkillers get those from their family or friends. They don't buy them off the street. They're not looking for anything dangerous. And unfortunately, they're so addictive and they may have that predisposition and then it just takes over.
Is that what makes it more accessible to the younger crowds?
Yeah, a lot of them start out with that kind of in the setting of their friends and family. A lot of them get it from their family's medicine cabinets or their friends passed around at parties. And then, as you can imagine, they don't have as many sort of financial resources, so it becomes cheaper to switch over to heroin.
What distinguishes heroin and opiates from other drugs?
When you have too much of that on board, they stop you from breathing. And then obviously with heroin, because it's not a predictable drug regulated by the FDA, it's something where you don't know exactly what you're getting, so the quality can be very variable. So what is an okay dose one day seems to be the same thing the next day, can be so intense that it will kill you.
How can we prevent this growing problem here in Minnesota?
It requires like a variety of levels of safeguarding. At the most basic level, like not to have your prescription medications from a year, 2 years ago lying around so that kids can get access to them. Like that's one really good way that parents can make a big difference, because of course no one wants this to happen. And it seems reasonable and thrifty to keep those things around, but the problem is that it's really dangerous.
In 1949, Hazleton began as an old farmhouse for recovering male alcoholics. Today, they are one of the world's largest rehab centers for those seeking treatment for drug and alcohol abuse.
We've set up a comprehensive opioid response program that involves both medication management and engagement in 12-step recovery, as well as like counseling and other kinds of, basically if we can offer a resource that has been proven to be effective, we will do so.
You guys get a lot of heat for treating your patients with medications. Do you think it's necessary to treat them with medication?
I really do. I think that when you have an available evidence-based medicine that can help. I certainly don't think that we use that on every single person. I think that the ability to individualize treatment, to have people assessed in a really comprehensive way, and then to really develop like a menu of options that would be good for them is just so important. And I really believe that that's a really important thing to offer to people.
And they've been proven to be effective?
They have been. It's like pretty scientifically clear that these medications are safe and effective.
What's the success rate of recovery for patients here?
What we've seen is that the length of engagement with our services has really significantly increased as we've rolled out this program. And one specific number, it used to be that within residential, in the patients with opioid dependence, about 22% of them would leave before treatment was finished.
Why is that?
Mostly because they couldn't tolerate withdrawal or were having other cravings. At this point, it's only 7%, and that's since we've added the medication-assisted treatment. We're doing a lot of research on the other numbers to really get better grounding, but it's a little hard right now because this program is so new. We're only hitting about 18 months. So we're actively monitoring that.
What do you think is the most challenging aspect of the program for heroin addicts when they join Hazelden?
This requires a huge change in their behaviors and a huge change in really every part of their life. So people have to leave behind their family, come to stay at Center City for 30 days. I mean, they're going through horrible withdrawals because of the physical dependence that is so intense with opioid addiction, that I think there's numerous factors that make it really difficult.
Do you see a lot of them overcoming that?
Yeah, I think that, the medication is a tool that does help that, because that can help just take away the physical stuff. And then I think that we throw a lot of other resources to try to really replace that dependence on the drug with the ability to have more engagement with peers, more engagement with like physical exercise and returning to having emotions and relationships, and really support people as they do that, because it's hard to exercise those skills after so long.
Coming up on Our Issues Twin Cities, the stories of recovering addicts who saw possibility even in the hardest of times. For the last few years, Samuel has devoted his life to God. He was a pastor for 4 years and continues his work in social services through community churches. But his life was much different before he became a pastor. When Samuel was only 13, he began drinking heavily. Drinking led him to cocaine, which later led him to heroin.
My girlfriend at the time had offered it to me many times. She was a regular user. And at the time, I was just a regular cocaine, alcoholic, person. I didn't think much of any other drugs. I didn't want to look like that, laying on the couch, nodding out, passing out, basically falling asleep on your face. That's what I saw some of my girlfriend, my friends do. So for me, it was like, that's not for me, that's for you. I just have my cocaine, my alcohol, I'm happy. I don't need that stuff. But on the day that she offered it to me, for some reason I said yes. To me it was just, why not? Let's try. After, I don't know how many years we've been together, I finally said yes. So I agreed to receive the shot. I was a little bit scared.
Yeah, were you scared?
Yes,
yeah.
I was, looking at the needle and the spoon, and I didn't know what it was gonna be, but I kind of trusted. Okay, I'll do it. So I remember, a neighbor again came over, brought the syringe and all that stuff. They washed it, whatever they did, and I just kind of turned away, because I didn't want to see my hand. I remember that they took off the tourniquet, the rubber band, and I felt really good.
Instantly.
I would say yes. I would say for about 1 minute. I felt really good. I felt peaceful. I felt joyful. I had no worries. Physically, I felt like I had nobody. It was just pure mind. My mind was at perfect peace. And I passed out. I remember them waking me up, throwing hot water at me, cold water, trying to wake me up, walking me around the house. I stopped breathing. One of them performed CPR just to get me going. So through the night and the efforts of them trying to get me sober, not to let me fall asleep and basically die. I was very sick, through that night for a whole week. And basically that was my introduction to heroin. You know, it was bad. For 1 minute, I could say that I was aware of how good it felt.
And you overdosed.
I overdosed. Yeah. I literally overdosed. And if nobody had responded to me, I would have died.
So what made you keep using after you overdosed?
The memory of how good it felt.
That 1 minute.
That 1 minute, yes, that 1 minute. About a week later, after I had OD'd, I had had a fight with my girlfriend. I was very angry, outraged, whatever it was just, you know, too much for me to handle. And I remember that I needed something. At the time I was drinking, I was using cocaine, you know, but that was not enough. So I remember, why don't I just have another shot? So I asked my girlfriend, can you get me some of that stuff, you know?
But now you say that you have a prejudice against heroin, so why did you keep using it?
Irrational, completely irrational. Because after that week, that Sunday that I shot myself, I forgot about all that. I forgot, that was okay. Now I'm using it, it's okay. And my girlfriend kept cautioning me, don't use it for more than 3 days because you're gonna get addicted. I was like, don't worry about it, you know, I can handle it. But I used it. I used it every day.
How long did the addiction last?
For about 10 years. 10 years. Yes, and it went from using just a little pinch of Mexican tar to using about 2 grams a day. Wow. And it was very fast, believe me. From the time that I started shooting myself to the time that I was using it just to keep myself from not having pain, waking up in the morning. Even when I used to wake up with shakes and pain and not being able to find a vein, I actually ran out of veins in my arms and my hands.
When did you first realize that you needed help?
You know, I always needed help, and I always knew I needed to get out of that rotten. I knew it. But it was hard to live a life that was comfortable, easy. You know, I don't have to work. I don't have to respond to nobody. I'm making money. I'm doing these things.
So how did you crawl out of that?
I was already talking to myself. I was hitting myself with my hands, you know, slapping myself, insulting myself. I would look at myself in the picture, in the mirror, and just insult myself. And how ugly I was, and how miserable I was, and how undeserving of life I was. Psychologically, spiritually, I had no hope, no sense of direction, nothing. I really did.
So what was your turning point?
My family stepped in. They offered to help with a detox program. I said, yes, fine, whatever. So they got me into this detox clinic in Southern California. It was good. It was good to be able to receive medicine and to feel good, to have therapy, to talk to people who were sober, who had lives, who had interests, whose life was different. And that to me was very, very healing. Just know that I was in a safe place. You
later became a pastor, but not by choice. Why is that?
Chuck, my friend, he actually laughed when I told him that I had become a Christian and that I was going to seminary and that I was in Texas working for the church. He thought that I was, you know, a little bit off, you know, because that's not me. Samuel doesn't like those things. Something happened to you, maybe your mind went bad, you know, using drugs and so forth. But it's interesting because this is not like me. You know, it was just a desire that came by means of a relationship, in the same way that I have come to know my children, my babies. It's just something really wonderful and fulfilling. That the more that I look at my babies and my wife, you know, I see the beauty of God and the goodness of God, how gracious and good He is.
Changed your life.
Yeah.
Coming up on Our Issues Twin Cities,
we may have reached a peak where we may see a decline in that coming up. That does not mean we let off the gas.
Ria's addiction began when she was a teenager. Through many hardships and self-searching throughout the years, Ria is sober today.
It just became available to me at that time, and I was dating someone that really enjoyed doing that, and so we started doing it together.
How did that affect your life?
I wasn't exactly, you know, a contributing member of society by any stretch of the imagination. So I was just basically living in a drug house and not working or anything, of course. I didn't have any responsibilities. The only effects I guess it really had on my life were that I wasn't pursuing anything different. As far as day-to-day consequences, there really weren't a lot, but I certainly wasn't doing anything with my life, and I was putting myself in danger. I could have OD'd at any time. And there were times that did happen, not at that point, but other times.
How did you get by? How did you make a living?
My family, mostly my dad, would give me money or help me out with food and things, and we would, go fly a sign, as we called it, hold up a sign and collect money from people or ask people for change. Mostly just things like that. Wherever you could get it, I was lucky to have family that was still really involved in my life. A lot of my peers, my friends, didn't have anything like that.
How did your family help you throughout your addiction?
My mom was always very supportive when I was sober and when I wasn't. We didn't always get along very well a lot of the time, but she did the best she could. She would always be there if I called her and I said, I need something, I need to come over, or I need help, and she would give me money when I was doing well, for things that were good for me, and be supportive with. She let me live with her a number of times, and emotional support, helping me with different things that can be hard in life when you're just kind of getting started doing real life, trying to get a job or things like that. My dad was the one that would always be there if I called him and said, I need to get picked up, things are bad, or I need to go to the hospital, or, no matter what was going on, he would always be there.
How has becoming clean changed your life?
Well, it's changed everything. I mean, I couldn't have anything that I have today without that. I have a relationship with a higher power that I choose to call God. God's an easy 3-letter word, so that works for me. That's the number one thing in my life. And the second thing is, my sobriety. I couldn't have that without having a relationship with God. And I'm a good person today. I like to think of myself as a good person. I am, I'm honest. I have a job that I'm really good at, and I have a lot of friends. I'm good to my family. I'm a good daughter. I'm a good granddaughter.
Do you think your journey and everything you've been through has made you who you are today?
Absolutely. I really wouldn't change anything. I don't have any regrets. It's my belief that I was born this way as an alcoholic and an addict, and you're gonna ultimately be an alcoholic and an addict actively until you decide to do something different. And it helps me to help others, all my experience, and it did help shape me to be who I am, so I wouldn't change anything.
For over 25 years, the Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge dedicates their service to help people struggling with drug and alcohol abuse.
We have ranging from short-term outpatient programs that we offer in multiple locations around the state to short-term inpatient, and then also we have our full 13-month long-term recovery program that we offer for people in several locations throughout the state of Minnesota. And that's a program that probably serves 80% of the people who are currently in our program, and generally speaking, for people who have been through approximately 4 other treatments before. And so there's a wide range of need out in the community, and we want people to know that there's a wide range of services as well.
If you have to go to treatment and you want to change your life, that's the best place to go. I've been there 6 months, and in just 6 months I've already had a transformation. And I have 6 more months to go, and I'm excited to see where my life is going to take me, and I have hope now.
It gave me kind of a whole new lens to look at life through, rather than getting high to avoid my problems or mask my problems. I learned how to handle situations, conflict, head on rather than avoiding them. Looking back at all this is just the entire direction that my life has changed. You know, it was just slowly slipping away from me before I came up here. And it's just given me a whole new vector to follow, or a new positive direction to go on. And I feel like I'm actually doing something positive and productive with my life. I feel like I'm impacting people in some way, shape, or form.
One of the great things we've seen is that some of the efforts that that programs are making to let people know about this is actually starting to turn the tide. We haven't completely gotten to there, but I think we may have reached a peak where we may see a decline in that coming up. That does not mean we let off the gas in letting people know about this extremely dangerous addiction. But what it means is that the efforts that people make to let people know about it, that works, and let's keep doing those things. And as new addictions rise, let's do it with those, and let's stop these things before they get out of control. Over the past several years, we have contracted with the Wilder Foundation and asked them to independently survey our graduates. And there has been a vast majority of our clients who report no drug use in the previous 6 months at the time of their being contacted. And on top of that, 80% of people saying that this program was good to excellent. Many of them saying they're in school or working full-time, or they've rejoined their families. And so success can be measured, we think, hopefully, in multiple ways. But the vast majority do report no drug use within that previous 6 months. This is not something that is something you should ever let fear keep you from getting better. We want people to recover. And we're so hopeful that they will return if they need to.
If you are someone who is struggling with addiction or know someone who is, please visit the websites on the screen. Thank you for joining me this week on Our Issues Twin Cities. I'm Renika Mann. See you next time.